Welcome to the B.C.L channel. This is Bruce. In this draw along video I'll show you in easy and accurate steps how to use one-point perspective. During this video you'll create your own helper sheet. Although I'm a beginner in art, I can show you how to use perspective since I'm a career changer from engineering to art. In engineering, it was necessary to work with 3D forms, perspectives and orientations of many components within one product, device or production plant. Technical perspective systems like isometric perspectives are the most common in engineering, while linear perspective systems are needed for graphics, illustration and graphical art in general. I've planned to do a whole series about this perspective and grid systems. Please subscribe, leave a like and write your questions and recommendations down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. First step, our materials. Well, if you want to draw along, you can use the same materials as I do. Just a mid-graded graphite pencil. You don't need fancy B12 and H12 stuff. Then colored pencils, since they are colored and erasable basically. I will use 3 colors for you, which edge relates to which axis, like I've already drawn here. And here we go in the one-point perspective. Whew. The one-point perspective is also called linear perspective system, and you'll see why in a second. Every 3D form is defined in 3 axes. So we have at first the x-axis, which represents the movement over the width of our paper. The y-axis represents the movement over the height of our paper. And the z-axis, here it becomes interesting because the z-axis actually represents the movement in and out of the paper. So since that's not possible at all, except you are in sculpting, we need a system to represent it. And these systems are bending axes to give the illusion of a 3D form, like in this cube. We have the frontal side, the frontal surface of this cube here, which looks actually like a usual square. And our components are easy to find. The movement from the x-axis is here, this edge. The parallel one, of course, the same here. It moves over the width of our paper, left and right. Further back, another parallel line, yep, we have this one, is also a movement in x. We are done. No more x-related edges here on this cube. The next one we can take a look is the y-axis. Well, the first one, this goes over the edge of our paper. So this is y-axis edge. This of course as well, since those are parallel, should be. This is just a sloppy sketch. Okay, then we have the third one here. This is also parallel. This edge goes in y as well. No more parallel lines to y. The next one is the z-axis. And now comes the projection, and the illusion of 3D forms is on an angle, depends on factors that we will see later. And just find those z lines in our sketch cube. We have the first one here, of course, since it is an angled edge. Then whether this is parallel or not, it's hard to say. You'll see in a minute why. But let's say this is also part of our projection towards the paper. And that one as well. The first thing we just recognized is, whoa, the receding lines, the receding axis must not be parallel to each other. The axes which are not affected by the perspective have to be parallel or rectangular to each other, in case of the cube of course. So it basically depends on your object, but we need to understand the cube, and you will see why in a second. If you are able to draw a cube in perspective, you can draw anything in the given perspective, and that's a very, very mighty method. These are the basis of a 3D form on a 2D paper, like every paper is actually. Now we have to introduce our one-point perspective accurately. The first we need for our artwork is a horizontal line. I just take that one, since I want a very familiar appearance to our corrected cube, like our sketch cube. Then I take the vanishing point over here. Vanishing point. Woo. As we know, we just have that one point here. We are done with our layout for one point perspective. We need to place our cube. Let's say I take front shape again and draw it here. Y line, Y line, X line, X line. Again, color coding, Y, Y, X, X. So now we need those other X and Y lines, and we need those Z lines. And how to achieve the Z lines? Well, now the vanishing point comes handy for us. We can take it, we can do it freehand. We also can do it with a ruler. I just take a ruler here for achieving a clearance on the paper here. The vanishing point works as follows. Every line which is affected from the perspective, in our case with one point perspective, just the Z lines are affected, have to meet up at this vanishing point. And that's the reason why they are angled to each other. They can't be parallel. Those lines can't be parallel to each other. It just appears in the sketch here, but we will see on the corrected cube it is not the case. And this makes our illusion for a 3D form. I draw along helper lines from the vanishing point toward to our first corner. Then we take the next corner, go from our vanishing point down, and the last corner here. We also can draw along to this corner, but since the front surface of the cube is hiding those edges in the back anyways, we just don't need it. The next step is to find our Z lines. Like on our sketch cube, we know we have 3 of them, and they are angled to the Y and the X. And now we can follow from this corner up to our angled helper line and draw in the Z line. So for accuracy purposes, I just make a short measurement. I'm gonna take 2 centimeters. You can take whatever you want, it actually doesn't matter that much. I take 2 centimeters here, then I take 2 centimeters here, but look, we have to take another angle for our ruler, 2 centimeters, and again another angle for our ruler. So as you can see, I've always taken 2 centimeters, and if we would draw in our Y lines, it would be kinda weird. Like the cube is drawn towards the vanishing point, and that's a problem. Actually, this is a mistake, but I did it on purpose to show you. You can't do usual measurements on axes which are affected by the perspective system, but you can rely on those who are not affected, which means I just take any 2 centimeters, like this Z line, and as we know the Y lines are parallel to each other, I take this point and just draw a parallel line upwards. Parallel looks a bit like that. And the same counts for the x-axis. I just took a parallel, or try to achieve a parallel line to x, and go to the corner where the Y line already meets. This cube looks way better than our first try. Now we have a corrected cube in perspective. As you can see, just the z-axis is affected by one point perspective. All the other axes and edges of those axes are not affected in any way. We have a perpendicular angle here, we have parallels here, those are parallels, but the z-axis has an angle. And the vanishing point of the perspective system is our basis for getting those helper lines. But now we might have a problem, since we don't know to find the correct positions, like the center point of our block surface, which recedes toward the vanishing point. Since we just recognized measurements doesn't work in a usual way on those perspective affected lines, we also cannot just take, oh, this must be the middle point of this surface or this surface. There are methods who are very handy in any perspective system, also in this one, to construct your true center point of any surface. And it works quite simple, since you just do a crisscross from corner to corner. This shape isn't affected by perspective anyway, but we can test this method. Corner to corner, corner to corner, our center point. The same method works on receding surfaces as well, and you will be surprised where the center point actually lies. Corner, 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 center point. But just try our measurement again. We have just 2 centimeters, so it would make sense to take the half for the middle. We take the half for the middle. This is the half of this line, yep. But if I go upwards, parallel, I'll miss the center point completely. Yeah, it looks narrow, but in a whole artwork it would look very odd. This method really works great for finding true center point, since you can divide the whole surface up correctly in perspective. Because I just can go parallel with our y-axis, since we go over the 8 of the paper, and draw a line through our center point. Well, you might say, so, oh great, we've just got a star. But we also get 2 surfaces out of 1 and 2 further corners to find another center point, this one. And the surface behind, this one. So now we can prove the perspective system, since those center points should be correct, with the vanishing point. And ta-da! We go through the middle of the whole surfaces and meeting up all center points. So you have positions here to draw along, to draw further, to sketch further within given perspective, and that's a very handy tool and works in every linear perspective system. As example, if you want to draw a wood cabin and you need to position your door in the perspective correctly, you need a method to find the positions, and working through those center lines and dividers, we also can divide further into quarters here. Take the axis of the quarters. Yeah, now I will mess up this whole piece if I do it now. But you can also do further quartering and get any correct position within your given perspective. It also works on non-affected surfaces as well, like the front surface of the cube. We go through. Oh, nice. And now we have whether 2 of those rectangulars in the vertical or in the horizontal, or we just take another corner to corner, since the cornering from the huge surface is already there. We just need 1 corner to corner, corner to corner, corner to corner, center point, center point, center point. And now we can draw in a cube or a circle. And we also can draw ellipses with it as well. We also can do that one here. Let me draw a new cube. Another important aspect of those parallel lines is X is always parallel to the horizontal line within the 1-point perspective. The Y line is always perpendicular to X lines. These are given rules for the 1-point perspective. If you need more freedom in terms of, oh, I want to move the Y lines in my perspective system, we will talk about that. It's called 2-point perspective, and it's the next part of this tutorial series. As we have our second perspective cube, I draw in the Y color and the X yet again. This one is very close, since I'm closer to the horizontal line. You see the difference. This shape is actually much smaller than that one. X is done, and now our receding Z. Now we want to draw a correct circle here on this affected from the perspective system. Yet again, we have to find our center point. Crisscross, corner to corner, center point. Center point done. Now we need some helper for our great circle. We can divide up parallel and parallel to X. The line goes towards the vanishing point. Now we have to go through here. This line is an Z line. This surface, like this one, is based on Y and Z. Y and Z, the surface lies here. Now we can crisscross again with our midpoints, and now we can draw a cycle, and it will be an ellipse. See what I did there? Just take arcs over arcs to meet all the center points in this case, and you will get an ellipse which is on a perspective fan. And you can draw any objects within such construction cubes, which are basically consist of those constructions and helpers. And you can divide any surface into smaller surfaces and shapes to find your point where you want to draw any object. And this is nearly all we need for any object in one point perspective, and it works even with curved objects. As you've seen here on this circle, you also can do any arcs or whatever within such constructions. As I said, nearly, we didn't talk about proper spacing in one point perspective yet. This is good for objects if objects are occurring in your drawing one or behind another one directly. But what if you have objects which are repeating over a given length of your drawing, like several cubes in a row towards the vanishing point? How do you do a proper spacing? Or if you want to draw an alley and you need to get down the trees of the alley in a proper distance, since towards the vanishing point the distance between the trees actually decreases. Well, there exists a very handy tool also with construction lines to achieve such spacing properly. If you want to draw, let me say, a wooden fence, proper spacing follows along again with construction line, with our given construction line methods, but in a bit of a different way. We have again center points, in this case are the actual half line of our vanishing point helper lines. We have vanishing point, we have the horizon yet again, 1 point perspective, and we are going to do the fence over here. And again I'm taking my ruler and define the, as you can say, oh no, I really know exactly, I want the first pillar here, I want the second pillar over here, roughly, and then you get it onto the perspective via the helper lines. It's the same method like you take the square, the front square of our little construction cube, like on the corner from the cube, we are going to the ends of our first pillar, the top end and the lower end. And now we can see our three-handed second pillar is just crap. But we remove the crappy pillar, correct it, I want it about here. Whoop. So we can take the center point here with corner to corner, corner to corner, center point. Yet again, without corner, center point, it doesn't make any fun here. And then we can go and draw our third helper line from the vanishing point to our center point. Yay! And now we can do something very special, and we can say, wow, due to the third helper line we exactly know the half of the 8 of our fence here. This helper line meets up our second pillar over here, and this point is very important because we can do proper spacing due to taking the top of our first pillar and draw a line through this halfway point on the second pillar. Whoop. Where this line ends on the bottom side of the fence, or in this case our third pillar, we can do another parallel Y line for our pillar. Since we already have this third helper line, we don't need a corner center point here anymore, just because our third pillar already meets up here with the third helper line, and now we can go through yet again. Second pillar halfway through the third pillar. You can repeat this until your fence is done. Color coding, pillar, 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 pillar. And you might recognize the difference. We have a distance from about 3 centimeters over here from the first to the second pillar, and just about 1.5 on the second to the third pillar. Just a bit above 1 between fourth and third pillar. That's the decreasing of distance towards the vanishing point. And you can construct this way all the way up to the vanishing points, or until the top of your pencil is too thick to draw any lines here. And I'm going to fast forward now. The same method I do for some trees. I want a tree here, I want a tree here, and I want a tree here. We start off yet again with the first tree. Just a scribble, a lines, top of the tree, bottom of the tree. We can take the middle here, and the second tree over here. Oh, I need those helper lines, since I want the trees all on the same 8. And yet again, we have the middle. Since trees are not that straight in our fence, the components of the fence, we need to do a proper assumption. Corner, corner, center line. This line is just the 8 of the stump. It is not the middle of the edge, but this one is. Woo! And now we can go through here. Corner, middle, corner. This one. Corner, middle, corner. Corner, middle, corner. Now we can draw in. And that's proper spacing in one-point perspective. This tutorial was part 1.1, and 1.2 will be a full graphic pencil drawing with one-point perspective, with constructions, with spacing, but not in this manner. Just a time-lapse drawing. Since I have made many of them, it's just the way of execution. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this tutorial was very helpful for you. If you have any questions, recommendations, suggestions, whatever, please let me know in the comments. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a nice day. Bye.